We're going into our second match of the day here. It's going to be between Bratok versus TT1.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited for this. Let's do predictions really quickly.
All right. So I took Bratok because I think he has it, you know, and I feel like he's shown pretty good TVP last week, and I feel like he can. Or was it TVP last week? I believe so. Right? Am I wrong, Andre? You're like giving me a furrowed eyebrow.
I think so.
Okay.
No, I can't think.
Was it?
Anyway.
I'm just giving me a weird boat. Bratok is just a great player in general, and I think he can pull out in this series. Who do you have in this series?
All right, I'm a little biased because TT1 is one of my best friends in the esports scene. I love the guy. We were actually on the same professional team together on Fnatic MSI at the time. That's what they were called back then. I know TT1's style. I know Bradok's style very well. I feel like TT1 is a player that will abuse that, and I feel like he's going to take it by a score of 2-1.
All right, so we have polarizing predictions once again. We'll find out who's right. In the bottom left, we have none other than TT1 from MTW. He is the blue Protoss, going for a gateway right off of his pylon. Pretty standard. He is going to scout against this player. Why don't you go ahead and introduce him, Andre?
It is none other than FXL Bratok. He is the red Terran spawning in the mid right-hand position on dual site. He is going for a gas first. No. A gas before expansion build. And this is kind of interesting. Now, we could be seeing a 1-1-1. We could be just seeing a Marauder expand, Reaper expand. There's a lot of different things that this implies. This single refinery implies. Normally we're used to gasless expansions, but on TVP, specifically on dual site with this open natural, I kind of assumed that we would see some sort of gas.
Yeah, and I'm starting to remember last week when I saw Bratok play that really funky game. I believe it was against Night End, and they basically had the most unconventional. It was kind of an old school TVP, but with a lot of weird dynamics thrown into the early game. And Bratok, will see whether or not he's going to try to improve upon that. We do see that he's walling off completely now. What is TT1 going to do in response? Is he going to get second gas? That's going to be a big question. Or is he going to try to go for a fast expansion?
Normally, you don't get a second gas in this position. You actually get a Nexus. The main reason for that, if it is a 1-1-1, you want the second gas, you're actually coin flipping. You can stop a 1-1-1 a lot more efficiently if you go for an early Nexus. That sounds kind of weird, but normally you are able to materialize off of this one base and really, you know, just start up the macro and do a lot of damage.
Some statistics for you that we've been preparing. TT1 does have a 48% win rate against Terran, but he's never played against Bratok. And Bratok has a 60% win rate against Protoss. What do you think about that, Andre?
It's not good.
He's been, before his loss.
not good for my prediction.
Before his loss last week to Night End, he was 11-2 in his past TVP, so Bratok, he has a pretty good percentage win rate, but of course it's about how you play, not necessarily about your history. Bratok is going for a factory. Now he is also getting a reactor on his barracks, so pretty one base play for now.
It does look like a 1-1-1 is gearing up. However, there is no second gas, so I take that back. This will be a cloakless Banshee to start us off, and he'll probably do some sort... No, I'm sorry. I take that back as well. It's going to be a medevac. It's going to be a medevac. Okay, so it's a 2-1-1, a variation of that. I do consider the reactored barracks 2 barracks, but he plans on doing just Marine, Heli, and medevac pressure.
Yeah, and you just have a lot of mobility. And dual site's actually a map that you can do it on, especially because how much area you have just exposed to your main. If you hug the cliffs, you still have lots of area that you can kind of elevator in and out. And so Bratok will probably try to see if you can utilize that. In the meantime, TT1 is powering up pretty standard 3 gates, or 4 gates rather, as well as a robotics. So we'll see how he's going to hold off to this one base pressure. But if Bratok doesn't do damage, Andre, it's going to be lights out for him.
This has been very abusive already. TT1 is one of the most abusive Protosses I know. You can look on the units tab. Let's do it right now. 1 Stalker out. All he's been doing is making production and getting that single Stalker to maybe, you know, thwart any scouting plans or... at least to have that on the map. So I do like what TT1 has done. Really ramped up his production. Now it's just going to kick in. Will it be enough, though, to defend against this incoming, you know, 1-1-1 pressure or 2-1-1 pressure? Yeah,
you know, Bratok is building a command center right now in the production tab, and he has it pretty much secured in the corner of his base. He does have his Hellions moving out to the top as well. Try to see if he can avoid watchtowers. Very, very clever move there TT1 has no idea this is coming, although he did scout the wall off and the barracks, so he has a little bit of an idea, but is he going to have his units in position? That's going to be a big question.
There's a lot of different things. Ooh, this probe is actually going to go directly into the Hellion fire. And there you have it. He has seen that going down, but in the meantime, that medevac, it's gearing up. It's ready to drop 8 Marines. Where is it going to drop, and how much damage is it going to do?
Well, he is going to go into this undiscovered part of TT1 base he doesn't see, and the Hellions are ready to run by on cue. In fact, TT1 sending one more probe just to see the positions of the Hellions, but the Marines are now in the main, and TT1 only has 2 Stalkers to protect it.
There's the big warband of 4 Zealots. Will be able to actually zone all those units out. In the meantime, those Hellions are coming in here. The probe's being pulled off the line. And actually a really nice recovery of this. Kills the Hellions pretty efficiently.
Yeah, and he is going to drop again behind the minerals, forcing TT1 to kind of split up his Zealots from the rest of the pack. But the aggression has been thwarted for now. We'll see how much damage was done. 9 workers have been killed for Bratok. Keep in mind, he was trying to expand, so he's trying to at least try to attempt to cripple the economy for a little bit of time while he got up his own. Did he do enough damage, Andre?
It was just enough to go even. He has the second orbital command center just about to kick in. You can see that, ooh, we need to be careful for that, yes. But I think it's just about even in terms of the worker count. The tech is pretty similar, actually. The one thing that Bratok doesn't have going for him is his development with his barracks units. He doesn't have the stim, he doesn't have the combat shields, doesn't have the concussive shell. So that might be a little bit of problem.
Bratok is harassing with 1 Banshee. He's gotten 3 kills thus far, and Bratok will evacuate the base as well. Now, he did see everything of what TT1's doing. He saw 4 gates of robotics, and he saw an additional gateway. So he has good scouting information at the very least, but he's behind economically for the meantime, just because, like you were saying, he doesn't have that strong development in his base after that harass. He does have a center of the map control as well, so he's going to fly, but he has 2 Banshees here, so he can continue to put on pressure if he so desires.
They don't have Cloak, but it does force TT1 to defend against Cloak. That's the main thing. So you can see Observer with these 4 Stalkers over here. The medevac is still in the bottom left-hand corner. I like this play. It just delivers a little bit of uncertainty to TT1. It says, hey, I can be harassed anytime. I have to always keep units back here. It actually makes him play a lot more defensive than he wants to be.
Not even just that, but it means that he has to keep units in the right position as well.
Yeah.
Because if you allow those Marines to drop, even 3 Stalkers sometimes isn't enough, because the Marines can take them out if you're not paying attention. Looks like Bratok is going for the drop again. TT1's moving outside of his main.
Well, unfortunate, the 2 Banshees are also getting in here, and the 4 Stalkers in the back were evacuated, so this is the perfect timing for Bratok to do some major damage. Will the Marines actually cut off all these probes? No, he won't get them in time.
No, man, they're unionized now until Bratok pays them a little bit more. They're just going to move. They're going to sit there. In the meantime, TT1's moving out to the middle of the map. He's going to trap some of these Marines and Marauders, and Bratok is not marking them whatsoever. And TT1 with a little bit of overkill on force fields, but still managed to take out a huge chunk of the Terran army.
Nice pickup from Bratok. He was able to salvage a lot of those units. There, the Marines are actually finally shown. And will he be able to do enough damage? TT1 is actually getting cleaned up pretty nicely here.
Well, the Stalkers are going to try to see if he can focus down some of the Banshees. Bradok's mainly occupied by the Force outside of his natural, pushing in here, lifting off. Bradok's attention is being pulled everywhere. He's trying to force stuff up the ramp. The supply depots are not up, and so Bratok is going to have Zealots in his face in just a second. We do see a little bit of jumbling of units. TT1 here not fighting the most efficiently. 1 Immortal is not in the fight whatsoever, and Bratok is pulling a lot of his SCVs, but the Forces are actually helping Bratok at this point.
And we're going to see that Banshee doing so much damage back at the main and the natural. You can see TT1 getting cleaned up very, very easily. 47 workers killed by Bratok. Bratok is just tearing face, man. He is doing everything and anything he can do. You can see the supply count is 58 to 79. Bratok with some impressive plays so far. I really, really like what we're seeing.
You see that 1 Marine that couldn't stim, man. It was just not enough health, but Bratok is just being very cost efficient with his units. His Banshees has been able to keep them alive for the most part, and you can see these Marines still optimizing as much damage as possible. Managed to pick off 1 more probe before this death. Bratok also managed to save his orbital command. A lot of Terrans aren't paying attention. They're trying to defend the army, or they're trying to use the army to defend. They're trying to harass, and they sometimes lose the command center, but he's able to keep almost everything, as well as his medevacs, and Bratok has a pretty decisive advantage right now.
Yeah, I don't know what TT1 can do right now. He is gearing up for another attack, but with only one immortal in this army, 2 immortals in this army, still, it's not going to be enough. He does have a lot of sentries, but they only have 1 round of force fields, so I think Bratok will have a very easy time in cleaning this up, especially with the supply lead that he has. It's just so massive. With +1 already done, this is going to be a very one-sided battle.
Oh, and Bratok not in the greatest position, but again, those force fields not the best from TT1 because he puts 2 down and lets the units slip on by. And TT1 forced to retreat just for the moment in time, but he doesn't have that many force fields left.
And Combat Shield is about to kick in. Once that happens, those Marines are supercharged. They actually tank a lot more. The percentage gain in HP is quite dramatic. And actually, they're going to be trading places. Right, there you have it. Well, Bratok losing a couple units for free, but kind of very interesting force fields there.
Yeah, you could see that TT1 was trying to do a strangle force field position, but he just doesn't have enough energy. He's going to go again, but the Zealots don't have charge or any form to close the gap, and Bratok is cutting beautifully. Look at that, pretty much untouched. And the Stalkers are left chasing the medevacs, but even then, TT1, he is warping in some units that have the proxy pylon. Bratok has to be careful. A lot of his units are taking damage from stim, but for the most part, he still has control as TT1 unable to catch his opponent.
Yes, and the whole time there's a lot more units in the natural, so he can easily just sandwich this whole Protoss army. Another stim actually gets used, and that puts a lot of those units in the red and the orange. It looks like Halloween here.
Yeah, I mean, we do see... I see what you did there. But Bratok, he's running out of stim before he can engage again. And one more stim, but all these units are pretty much one hit from dying. And Bratok over stim there, man. And you can see that those Marines and Marauders are running on their last legs. Literally.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, those armies were actually really funny.
Stim's one hell of a drug,
considering how long they were just out in the middle for so long. It was just a micro battle.
Yeah, I mean, Bratok was valuing, you know, taking out the pylon, really taking out sentries. Look at it, TT1 has no more sentries left. He's only got Stalkers, a couple Zealots, and the Immortals. But Immortals are great, but we don't have that much protection for them. They are very vulnerable to the Terran army.
And it's unfortunate, because TT1, he wants to go and press in, but he just doesn't have the units. He doesn't have any capabilities to actually defeating a Marine Marauder army like this. Now that +1/1 is finished, TT1 is only at 0/0. You can see a big problem. Now, the stim forward, picking off the Immortal immediately. A nice job. There it is. GG, ladies and gentlemen. TT1 will fall, and Bratok will take the first game.
Nice job, Bratok. And you see that Bratok, despite the fact that he opened up a lot less economically mid-game minded, he still managed to do enough damage, and he just kept the pressure on. In TT1, he was doing a good job initially defending all the forms of harass with the drop and the Banshees, but just fell apart when he tried to go for a timing attack. Yeah,
that one push that TT1 did, I understand where it's coming from. He's basically saying, I have an invincible army right now. If we went head-to-head, you would not be able to kill me. Yeah. Well, that's how he felt. He felt like my Immortals are a lot quicker than your medevac timing. Normally you need medevacs and you need those upgrades. Stim, combat shields, +1/+1, things like that, concussive shell. You know, Bratok did not have all of those, and TT1 felt very comfortable in pushing out. Unfortunately, the little tiny harass was able to keep him up and just do enough damage to TT1. If that was not there, TT1 would have had a very clear win in that game.
We'll see whether or not if TT1 can turn it around. Meanwhile, thank you so much to the sponsor of that game. It's actually Kingston HyperX, because the program reschedule. Kingston HyperX supplying a lot of great technology and gear, memory, and SSDs. Thank you so much for doing so much for esports in general. So we'll be back with game number 2 between Bratok and TT1. Is this a little bit inside?
We got to lean.
We'll be back after a quick commercial break. I'm just doing some stretches, guys. Don't go anywhere. More action than NASL coming up next.